Here, I'm gonna have you lead the pledge. Oh, Ron's leading.
It's in his mouth.
Great.
Allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I just got back from India and Japan. All right, so we have public comments. Jim Hadley here. Come on up, Jim. Come on up. You have a part of an airplane in front of you, so if you can sit on the end there, probably we can take your public use. So 3 minutes. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, my name is Jim Hadley. I live in Northwood. Former selectman, former controller at the U.S. Department of Education, Northeast Regional Laboratory. Since 2018, I was appointed by the Northwood School Board to serve on their audit committee. Northwood is now a single SAU. Nottingham and Stratford withdrew a couple years ago. I did provide the board with a 5-page handout and an additional 1-page handout today. Northwood is a high school of record for Co-Brown, and voters a couple days ago voted to renew the 10-year contract with Co-Brown. So now it'll go before this board for final approval. So before it does, I would ask that you review my public comments and my attachments. For many years, my concern has been Co-Brown not returning the surplus, and they're the only public-private nonprofit in New Hampshire that does not return the surplus. Pinkerton is the other nonprofit. And I had a conversation email with the headmaster at Pinkerton, and he said the reason they return the surplus every year is because they don't need the extra money. They would rather, it should go back to the property taxpayers. So that's my concern. And I provided the board with a schedule of the last 34 years of what Co-Brown has earned in surplus. And this board is the only guardrail that's left for the Northwood taxpayers. And I would really appreciate if you could review my documents. I served as a chief bank auditor years ago, and this has been on my radar for like 35 years. And years ago, back in '96, I called a special meeting, school meeting, because the former treasurer at the time, there were irregularities. So the Department of Justice came in and found that embezzlement took place. So these funds have not been misappropriated, they've been misapplied. And I would really appreciate the board to consider having someone at the Department of Ed take a look at this in my documents and stuff. So, you know, this is a big item on the Northwood taxpayers. 60-some-odd% of our taxes go to local schools. So this is very important. Thank you for your service.
Thank you, Mr. Hadley. Sure, Jim, do you have time for a question?
Are your expectations that there'd be any retroactive refunding?
That's what the 1-page handout that I gave today has several recommendations, and that's one of them. Is starting at the end of this school year, maybe freeze the tuition rate. Pinkerton's rate is 25% lower than Co-Brown. Co-Brown does not need the extra money. They made a comment in our town report this year that, you know, they're really hard up as far as finances, but in the past, any school can go to the New Hampshire Municipal Bond Bank if they want to build a new facility or something like that. So, you know, I think I left enough information on my public documents, but I think it is something that it wouldn't impact Co-Brown, but it would certainly be good for our seniors. We have over 1,000 seniors that live in Northwood that are on fixed income.
So was this a topic for the committee that was negotiating the agreement with
I
Co-Brown?
had gone before the school board and gave them all this information, but the person that negotiated the school board, he was up for re-election the other day and he didn't win. So I felt as though he didn't have enough background, and the school business administrator does not have a background in nonprofit accounting. They're only supposed to keep up to 25% nonprofits in their undesignated surplus for emergencies, and Co-Brown now has over 90% in their undesignated surplus.
But the town, they did agree to the rates that are being charged between Co-Brown and the
It
town.
didn't have the rates on the agreement. What the voters saw was no amounts.
But in the agreement, it has the rates.
We haven't seen the agreement yet. But again, this is the last guardrail.
True.
Yeah.
Presumably, each school district has their own governing board, being a school board.
Correct.
What does Co-Brown have and how are those people elected?
There's the board of trustees that serve from the 3 high schools of district, those towns.
And that's the governing board for
That's
Co-Brown.
the governing board. Thank you.
And you submitted written materials to handle.
Yep, you have them right in, they're here and,
Okay.
yep, and they're in the pocket, yes.
So my last comment here, if I could get some type of reply in the next several weeks from, someone that my material has been reviewed and,
Yeah, we as a board wouldn't really be able to take it up collectively from that board meeting, but we can certainly take a look at it.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Sure. Anybody else for public comment? We didn't have any other folks signed up, so. All right, we're gonna do that, and we're gonna have Julie come for a quick woo.
Good morning. I'm Julie Shea, the Administrative Rules Coordinator for the department. The first thing on the rules agenda this morning is the conditional approval response for ED 321, which is adding charter school eligibility to the school building aid. This went before JLCAR at the February meeting, and it's a pretty long document, but there were only 2 substantive changes, and I marked on the summary which pages those were on pages 3 and 8. We added defining terms to those sections based on OLS comments to make it more clear. And if the board votes to approve the conditional approval response, then we'll send it over across town and the board can vote to adopt it later in the meeting. I don't know if there are any questions regarding the proposal.
Any questions?
I motion to approve the conditional approval response for ED 321 relative to school funding aid.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Julie.
Okay. We have a vertical stabilizer. Making your presentation. This is awesome. Guys, come up.
Good morning. Thank you for inviting us. My name is Amy Allen. I'm the superintendent of the Lebanon School District. In addition to our Take Flight students, I am joined with Dr. Robinson, who is the Director of Curriculum, Instruction, and Assessment at Lebanon High School. Our 2 educators, Thomas Moore and Bo Harward, and Nate McDonald from the Aviation Museum of New Hampshire. So this all started with a competitive RFP to bring Tango Flight into a high school in New Hampshire. I was familiar with the Take Flight program, Tango Flight, at MST in Manchester, as my daughter attended one of the classes there and did the plane building program. So when I saw the application, I got excited because I said, this is the type of learning that we need inside our public high schools, not just our CTE centers. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to the students.
All right, I'm sorry, I'm gonna, oops, let's see if I have to click. Okay, all right.
I'm Chip Silver. I'm a senior at Lebanon High School. We have 14 students in the program. They range from sophomores all the way up to seniors. You get 3 credits from the program. We get a math, a science, and an engineering credit from it. It's 2 periods out of our 7 each day. Periods 3 and 4, we go out to the hangar and work on the plane. We have our 2 teachers. We also have community mentors. So people who specialize in all sorts of different things within the field come and help us with it. And we're building an RV-12IS light sport aircraft. It's a kit plane made by Vans.
Hi, I'm Ian. I'm a sophomore. A little bit about our partnerships. Mrs. Allen mentioned Tango Flight. That's like the manufacturer and the designer of the course. We're using the Vans aircraft that Chip mentioned, as well as the Aviation Museum of New Hampshire, which funds the whole program. And then, of course, the administration and the community members. They're great support.
Hi, I'm Solon. So the hangar originally started out as just a regular 3-bay garage and was then transformed over the summer by the maintenance crew, Mr. Harwood and Mr. Moore. As you can see in the picture, the parts for the plane arrived in these big wooden crates, and a few of the students And teachers arrived to help kind of unload the crates and inventory the parts. Mr. Robinson did most of the inventorying. And then later on, the mentors got together to collaborate building that vertical stabilizer. And that kind of helped them familiarize themselves with the workshop and the blueprints and how it kind of worked.
Okay, sorry.
Hello, I'm Dylan Moore. I'm a junior at Lebanon High School. In the beginning of the class, we started out learning, from familiarizing with each other. We wanted to bond to create just create a good bond with each other and to help work with each other and work well with each other. And then as the class progressed, we really increased that bond with each other, so we were able to work more efficiently with each other and our mentors and the other teachers that were with us. And then another thing is the blueprints that we had. The blueprints we had were, at first they're pretty difficult to read. But we got through it by working with each other, and I'll start. How we read them was first, we'd start by reading them by ourselves, and we read them in our head. And then afterwards, once we think we'd understand them, we'd have one person in our group read it aloud to each other. And once we think that everyone understood it, we'd go to a mentor, one of our mentors that were with us, and he'd read it over. We talked to him about it. And if he understood and he made sure everyone else understood, that's when we started the step. And then after each step was completed, we'd go to a mentor. He'd look at it, and if he would think it's airworthy, then that's when we'd sign off on it. And we'd have a mentor with us at all times in case we had any questions or just anything we need help with. And that really was nice.
All right, my name is Reed. I'm a senior. And as the year went on, the daily projects really add together and they just combine to make larger parts that start actually resembling a plane. As you can see here, we have vertical stabilizer. We've also worked on other assemblies that start looking like something that we can recognize.
Yeah, the best way I'd describe it is kind of like learning a language. We really started in the beginning of the year, really bare bones, hard. We don't know what we're doing, but through our experiences and everything, and our mentors guiding us and our teachers as well, we've really improved our proficiency. And I mean, we feel like aviation mechanics, which is pretty insane.
I'm Ben Britton. I'm also a senior. I'm talking about our confidence and how it's really improved. So like Dylan mentioned, when we first started the class, we didn't really understand any of the diagrams that were pretty complicated. And one of the terminology we didn't understand either. It was like a new language. We didn't know what it meant. But as we've progressed throughout the year, our confidence has really improved. We are moving away from having to ask mentors every single question. We know it all ourselves, and it's we feel really good about building the airplane, and we know what's going on. So it's a pretty good feeling to do that. Yeah.
I'm Tomas Pinelli and I'm a senior, and a large portion of the rigor of the class comes from the fact that everything we do needs to be perfect and airworthy. The entire plane is effectively a life support system, and we need to get all of it right. In addition to that, our time in the class is really relevant to future careers and possible futures in the aviation industry. And we all have logbooks that at the end of the day, we fill out and we sign, and we are earning hours towards possible future airframe and power plant licenses.
My name is Rebecca Ball. I'm a senior at Lebanon High School. This class that we're taking has such a high level of engagement, and it's really wonderful that every day you go in and there's always something you can work on, or a new part you can start, a new group you can help out, and there's always something to do, and it's always something fun to do as well. You're never really bored in this class. And the final thing that I want to say is that we're forming a lot of relationships and friendships with people that we might not hang out with on a regular basis. And they're just such great relationships that I don't think I would have had otherwise, not only with my peers in this class, but also with the community mentors who come in every day and they help us out and they tell us their stories. And it's just such a great experience in that respect as well.
The last slide was.
Oh, back one?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, it won't let me go back. Oh, there,
All right.
there we go.
My name is Shaya Karadena. I'm a sophomore. And I want to talk about some of the things that we've done outside of the hangar. So, in the photos there, you can see one of the photos is from LebFest, which is one of our community events, where we set up a stand and we told the general public about what we do in this program. And we've also visited some Lebanon schools to tell teachers about what we've been doing in this program and just generally educating the public about what we're doing and encouraging other students like us to get into aviation. We've also visited the Lebanon airport, which helps us network and learn about what our futures could look like in the world of aviation. And we went to the Aviation Museum's gala, which helped us network even more, learn more about what our futures look like. Again, we got to see a finished RV-12 that Manchester students built, and we were inducted into the Yellowbird Society, which is a community for students and kids who are interested in aviation.
That's okay.
All right, so I'm Kyle Hines, a senior, and the seniors here are going to share our overall comments about the class. For next year, I'm going to Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University for aeronautical science to become a pilot. Right now, I'm getting my private pilot's license out of Concord, right down the road. So it's nice feeling at home here. But for this class, I cannot say it any better than this truly has made me know what I want to do with my future. I'm never going to work a day in my life because I've found something that I truly love, truly get up out of my bed and go to school excited to do this. It's really great. I'm also a senior and I would like to study mechanical engineering in college. I'm not sure where I'm going to attend in the fall, but this program has been really amazing. I love everyone in the class, and it's just a great experience. Just to walk out to the hangar every day and do something that not every student can say they can do, and it's just a great thing. So,
my name is Reed. I'm a senior, and next year I'll be attending WPI for aerospace engineering. And I've always been kind of a car guy. I've loved mechanical engineering. My parents are engineers, and I've always had that idea in my head of becoming an engineer one day. But this class has really solidified that for me. It kind of pushed me in an aerospace direction, which I didn't think I'd be doing next year.
I'm Chip. I am also a senior. I'll be attending Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University next year for aeronautical engineering. And a lot like Kyle, this really confirmed for me that this is what I want to do. I always had a passion for aeronautics and the engineering side of it, and this has really just showed me that this is exactly what I want to do with my life.
I'm Rebecca, and you may guess it, but I'm also a senior. I don't know exactly what I'll be doing next year, but I do know that I'm going to go to college and study aerospace or aeronautical engineering. And this class has really just solidified my desire to study that, but also has created such an amazing foundation, such a strong foundation for me to go into that field of study next year and learn even more than I already have.
I'm Tomas, and next year I'll be studying either computer science or engineering in college. And this class taught me to enjoy working with my hands. And before, I didn't know how to do it, and I wasn't good at it, and I had no confidence, and I didn't really enjoy it. And now it's all the opposite. And it's really opened up the possibility of like being an engineer that works on things with my hands and is in a shop using tools and doing all of that stuff that I couldn't do before.
So we can't really overstate it. The sky's the limit here. My name is Bonnie Robinson. I'm the Director of Curriculum. I'll just briefly say between what you just heard from our students, this is project-based learning at its finest. There's so much critical thinking and problem solving involved every day, sometimes more than once. Chip was telling me about the part he's working on right now, and what is it?
It's the canopy. The instructions are a handful to read. Some of them are a massive page of just words, but it's kind of what comes with it and you just, the whole point is you look at it, you figure out what's going on and you gotta do it right.
This program wouldn't have been possible without all of the community support, the support from the Aviation Museum, all of our donors. We are so appreciative. And we are really excited for it to continue into the future. And we thank you for inviting us to be here today to show you what's possible in public education. We really embrace innovation and love providing opportunities such as this.
Bonnie, I think too is once this plane is complete, it will be sold. And then that's how we get money for our next plane too. So if you're interested in the market for RV-12s, there is a long list, but it's actually one of the safest planes around. They've done a terrific job, so.
We're all going in for a ride. before we sell.
Score.
Yeah.
This is great.
As a
Great
techie,
job.
I have two questions here. Did you design this piece here, or was it something that you designed and created?
Yeah, this was the part that the mentors created in one of the previous slides. I think it looks more silver
I
than it
saw
does
that.
now. Yeah.
I didn't know if
And
it
then
was
we had
marked
a,
off,
yeah, we had a community member who specialized in vinyl wrapping, who kind of reached out as the, Valley News has covered us a couple times, WMUR, and reached out and wanted to help us out. And we designed this and he took it, brought it back, and looks like that now. So.
They've also built one themselves. That will
Wonderful.
be the actual one for the plane. This is just our prop.
So second question, I work with school students all over the world, and I keep asking them, are you documenting the projects that you're doing? Do you create a portfolio of your projects? Because I see sophomores and juniors, when you're applying to Stanford and MIT, they want to see what kind of things you have done. Not in paper, but in videos and websites and things like that your names are associated with, that are timestamped. And so you should create your own project for videos and such, because then I know some of your seniors, they are already in college. Some of you are still going to college. This will be absolutely amazing to document and put out there.
We do have a newsletter if you'd like to be on our mailing list.
Yeah. No, this is for themselves.
Yeah.
This is for their own applications and ambitions. No, that's what, yeah. Thank you.
First word I gotta say is, wow. No matter what you guys do moving forward, education wise or work, this project, you're gonna look back on as a really strong foundation. It doesn't matter where you're gonna go, what you're gonna do. My son just graduated from WPI Masters Aerospace. And I say, no matter what you want to do, you're going to air. Well, he works in McLean, Virginia. And he's monitoring satellites for Intelsat. And that's his job now. So it kind of completely changed. You never know where you're gonna end up. But these skill sets that you guys have done as a construction superintendent, you can apply it to construction. I heard you say blueprints. So it doesn't necessarily mean you're gonna be in aviation. No matter what you do, this is a high performing industry. You're gonna apply things you learned here and working together. That was the biggest piece I heard out of this. And by the way, I sense a lot of confidence in your public speaking. And I always feel like did that kind of come out with this program? Did that help you? Because you're probably working with the mentors. I heard mentors in the community coming in. So this is
A lot of talks like this too.
quite a bit, yeah. So this is a fabulous program. So I really commend you all. That's great.
Do you have a wind tunnel where you can test out all these things? Models and such?
Look up.
Want a wind tunnel?
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion that the board sent Ann and I for a verification flight.
It's not far off. I have a 27-year-old daughter who would have benefited greatly from your program. She's currently training to fly the CH-53 Super Stallion helicopter. And had no experience like this in her high school years. And imagine it would have served her well if she had.
I'd like to invite you all up to come look at the hangar in action too. It's pretty cool. I mean, we really did take an old 3-bay garage and then spruced it up and then we coined it the hangar, but it's really helped from those mentors. I think we have over 40 community mentors that come in to work with our students and just have a passion to work in aviation, working with the students to make it all come together.
I have a question. So for how many of you did this class change your career plans or your college plans? The rest of you kind of knows this because you knew you wanted to go into something like this. That's good. That's background. Who can explain pitch and yaw and trim and yaw and what this part does?
All of us.
Good answer.
Awesome. That's great. I love it. Who's gonna, so I know that you're gonna have an adult fly this plane for the first flight. Who is just dying to fly this?
They're all ready to go for a ride.
Who will have to wait for the first flight to then decide if you're gonna go? Can we just hear from the Aviation Museum? Because you guys started this project. I know the Aviation Museum has really gotten this going at MST and is trying to go, and Amy, I know you have that connection there to bring it to Lebanon.
Yeah.
I've been trying to, talk to them too. I mean, we've been very encouraging with the Aviation Museum of this program. Hopefully there's more ability to raise money to keep this program expanding. So can you just tell us how it got to, like how it got started, how it got to Lebanon, and then are there future plans for maybe more schools?
Yeah, so it started at MST. MST was the I believe the third or fourth school in the country to adopt this program for Tango Flight. It's now at 40, around 40 to 44 high schools across the US. So yeah, MST was one of the first ones. They completed their plane. We retained that plane as the show plane. So that's the one that we bring around to demonstrations and that sort of thing. For future plans, Farmington High School will be starting their plane build coming up in September. So that'll be the third build that we'll be supporting. Again, we did all the fundraising through selling tax credits, small and large donors. We do the grant writing as well. And then in speaking of grants, we have also last month applied for an FAA grant. And should that grant be approved, part of that grant is to fund a fourth plane build in the state, potentially serving somewhere up in the North Country for a different community.
Awesome. Love it. Any other questions?
So there is a wind tunnel in Nashua.
Just saying, right? Just saying.
My last company used to build them, that's why.
Yeah, you guys definitely listen to Rajat. Fantastic. Well, thank you all so much. Really appreciated this. You're an impressive group of students and teachers. Just great job. What are your hopes for the future for the school?
Multiple success airplanes.
Yes, essentially. Yeah, I'd like to see, the aviation industry, they need a lot of people, coming in. So I mean, I'm really proud of and excited that these guys have gotten a bit of a bug to get into that field, and I'm kind of hoping that we can continue fostering that.
There is a massive shortage of pilots, mechanics.
Yeah.
Everybody down.
Designers,
Yeah.
So what are the universities around here that have aeroastro? I know MIT has an aeroastro department, which goes not just aero, all even out. So I know WPI has. What other universities have? Because you should be connecting to them.
Yes, we should, yeah.
There should be a straight feeder to those schools.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're currently exploring options to potentially reach out to Nashua Community College for their A&P program to either provide financial aid or just make the application process a little bit more streamlined. Also, there's the National Aviation Academy in Massachusetts. They have an agreement with Southern New Hampshire University, so you can do their 14-month program there and get your A&P certificate, which you can keep for the rest of your life, and then attend Southern New Hampshire University, 60 credit hours to transfer, and there's also options for financial aid, benefits, and tuition reduction. So there are pathways for sure.
We're also talking with Texas Arcana to talk about dual credit opportunities, so they would be earning both high school and college credit for this program.
Fantastic.
Any of this question to you? Any thoughts for the district to start a little earlier in terms of maybe a middle school engineering class or design, that kind of thing, just to get kids prepped to go up?
Yeah, actually, the excitement from our elementary school teachers and students and our middle school teachers, they were there yesterday looking at the program. So we've started to have those conversations about how we can build some earlier skills, even up into elementary. Especially as we work on our profile of a graduate. A lot of what we heard today is communication, collaboration, critical thinking, is making sure we're really intentional about those and then introducing them to the plane build. So we have future Tango flight students.
Yeah, pipeline's good. You might talk to Academy of Science and Design. They have their 7th grade requirement is to take aeronautical engineering in 7th grade. So they already have that level class, so maybe you could see what they're doing. Might be a good model.
And your comment that it was like learning a new language, maybe an elementary school blueprint reading class.
Yeah. Basics of engineering, yeah. Maybe this guy can help out. This guy's good. Too good. So
Come up,
this might be.
come up.
I know.
I mean, we learned all these skills, I don't know, Legos, like, that's all it is. It's just grown up Legos.
Robot.
High stakes, though.
It's my stakes where I had to find the piece if I lost it, and I had to redo it if I messed it up, but I guess here's a little different.
How many of you, I mean, everybody does a contact with Legos, but how many of you had like Legos were really important when you were growing up, or like, so. Almost all of you. Yeah, it's amazing. Okay, anybody else? Well, thank you so much. Very impressive.
Best of luck to you all.
I'd love to get the newsletter and.
Okay.
you share my-
I'll look. You have part?
Yeah, you don't need that. You can put it on the wall.
Great advertising.
In classes every day
We have
from about 9:15 till 11 o'clock. And we'd love to have you come up. It's even more impressive in person.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
It's light.
Yes, well, not specific, no, there's no charter school that's specific for aeronautics.
We learn everywhere.
But ASD has an aeronautic engineering pathway, so you can take those classes there, all the way up to astrophysics, like, at the high school. You can start in middle school. Literally in 7th grade at ASD, aeronautical engineering is a required class. All students have to go.
In 7th grade?
In 7th grade. Wow. One of the reasons ASD is the top high school in the country, if you talk to Jen Cava, is they said, and she said this here in the presentation, they set very high expectations, and then they help to get me. There's a lot of support to meet those expectations. They do not lower them. They do not accept that you can't do this stuff. They don't accept that 7th graders can't do aeronautical engineering.
They don't accept that you're not a math person.
Exactly.
Everybody can learn math, you know?
Absolutely. That's exactly right.
Do they use the word rigor?
Very much.
Yeah,
Yes.
I like that.
Yeah.
A lot of places have shied away from that word.
Yeah.
We think about the rule proposal.
I was one of the founding parent of ASD.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay. That was.
There's not that many people left. Do you guys have a plane back there anywhere?
No, we got it at home.
I think, I'd be happy to go up there if they'll come pick me up. But it's a 2-seater plane, so, you know.
So you're flying and Ken's riding, is that what you just said?
I'm not playing. Okay.
We'll get Margaret to come home.
Yes. Okay, so, it is 9:50. All right.
11:30.
Yeah, all right, so we have 4 hearings to hear. Most likely, these are gonna be in non-public session. So the first one is, parent in Kearsarge Regional School District. Are the families here for that? Okay, would you guys prefer non-public? Okay. So at this point, we're gonna switch to non-public session. So everybody who's not here for.
Can you just hold the, close the doors after everybody's
Yeah,
Thanks.
Okay, if you're here for Kearsarge, you can stay. If you're not part of the Kearsarge case, then we're gonna have to ask you to step out.
To kind of get all the systems
Exactly.
shut down, so.
And Diana, you'll make sure that the outside is shut down.
15 minutes.
Yeah. He's gotta take that.
What?
He'll be back.
You can go ahead and do it now. Yeah, we should definitely do that now. Let me just go into.
If you need to spend, you go to my office, if you need your fine spot. Thank you. Thank you. Excuse me. All right, so we have to shut down all the feeds and the microphone, the speakers, so we're truly private here. I'll check on this. We need to win. All right, so we are here. Again, we're simultaneously in a public hearing. We have a parent and school district case. I'm gonna ask the parents, you know the parents?
Yes.
All right. No, that's great. That's
Okay.
fine. Well, fine. Yeah, please, if you'd like, come up. So typically, we give the family side the option of choosing whether to do this in public or non-public. We do have a public hearing scheduled for right now that we need to be open for. So if it's really important to you to be in non-public session, we'll just hold your case until we get out of the public hearings. So that's 2 hearings in a row, though. So we won't be able to take yours up until 12:30. Oh, no, actually, they're both 11:30. We scheduled these both 11:30.
Well, at 12:08, you should be free.
Okay, great. So we have to forward. So if you'd like, it's up to you guys. If you'd like to go to non-public, we can. We just have to hold off until we get out of this public hearing. So it's totally up to you. If you'd like to have the hearing in public, then we can do that.
No, actually, initially, I did request a public hearing.
Public?
Yes.
Okay. Fair enough. All right. So the way this works, we have the record. We have all the information in the packet. no new arguments that we're hearing here. You have an opportunity to highlight anything you'd like to highlight to us. You know, give us any context. Or not. You don't have to elaborate if you don't want to. But if you just want to tee it up and explain it, it's 10 minutes. And then we'll have the district have 10 minutes to respond.
Okay. I did prepare something and it is less than 10 minutes.
And please introduce yourself for the record.
Sure. My name is Merle Dewitt. This is my wife.
Amanda Reed.
So the floor is over to you.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to you today. My case is similar to the student versus Pittsfield School Board open enrollment case in which the final order was issued by the Board of Education on May 31st, 2024 in favor of the student. Some of the similarities of that case and mine are that I live outside of the Prospect Mountain School District. I have a child that is currently attending Prospect Mountain High School. And like the Pittsfield School Board, my school board has not adopted an open enrollment policy pursuant to RSA 194 D1. And as in the Pittsfield case, my school board denied my request for them to pay tuition to Prospect Mountain High School. All these facts are very similar to the Pittsfield School Board case. However, I disagree with Attorney Foley's recommendation to stay the case until the Supreme Court's decision on the appeal of the Pittsfield School Board. However, the Pittsfield School Board is solely responsible for students who reside in the Pittsfield School District. However, I live in the town of Epsom, and Epsom School District has an area agreement with the Pembroke Academy for education for grades 9 through 12. The difference between the two cases is so. I'm concerned that if the Supreme Court agrees with the Board of Education's final order, the Epsom School Board will appeal the decision and argue that the ruling does not apply to them because Pittsfield is a single school district and the Epsom School District is part of an area agreement comprised of ascending and receiving districts. This case began in August of 2023 when my wife and I decided for several reasons that we did not want our child attending Pembroke Academy. We met with Superintendent Jack Finley and requested that our child attend Prospect Mountain High School under open enrollment. The request was denied, but Superintendent Finley suggested we request a manifest educational hardship from the Epsom School Board. And in October of 2023, the Epsom School Board granted our child a manifest educational hardship with a contingency that the Epsom School Board reserved the right to review the decision in the future if there was a material change in our child's circumstances. There were no other contingencies or requirements. Specifically, there was nothing referencing their decision needing approval of the Pembroke School Board. 6 months later, in May of 2024, my wife and I received the letter from Patty Sherman, the superintendent of the Pembroke School District. The letter stated that per RSA 195A4, the Pembroke School District will be holding a meeting to review our child's manifest educational hardship. RSA 195A4 states the school board of the sending district and the receiving district may mutually agree to exempt pupils from the agreement. Any exception granted shall be for the period of 1 year and shall be renewed only upon mutual agreement of the school boards concerned. Please note that the language in RSA 195A4 indicates that the sending and receiving districts may mutually agree to exempt students from the agreement. Mutually agreeing is not a requirement. If it were a requirement, the word shall would have been used in place of the word may. During the months of May, June, and July of 2024, there were numerous emails between myself, Superintendent Finley, and Superintendent Sherman regarding the manifest educational hardship for the 23-24 school year. Due to the districts being in an area agreement, there was a discrepancy between the Epsom School District and the Pembroke School District as to whether or not the Epsom School Board had the right to grant a manifest educational hardship without the approval of the Pembroke School Board. Regarding the superintendent's letter, my wife and I decided to not attend the Pembroke School Board's manifest educational hardship meeting for two reasons. The first, the Epsom School Board is our school board of record. The Epsom School Board issued the initial manifest educational hardship and they should be the school board reviewing any continuation of the hardship. Secondly, due to the decision of the State Board of Education regarding the Pittsfield School Board open enrollment case, we decided to enroll our child at Prospect Mountain High School under open enrollment and not by utilizing a manifest educational hardship for the 24-25 school year. In July of 2024, the Pembroke School Board held their manifest educational hardship hearing and denied our child a hardship. In August of 2024, my wife and I received a letter from Superintendent Finley stating the Pembroke School Board's denial of the manifest educational hardship, and in turn, the decision by the Pembroke School Board overrode the Epsom School Board's prior decision. After receiving this letter from Superintendent Finley, my wife and I realized that SAU 53 was unable to recognize and follow their own policies and misunderstood the intent of RSA 195A-4A. Despite granting my child a manifest educational hardship for the 23-24 school year and SAU 53 receiving an invoice for tuition, the Epsom School District has yet to pay the tuition, resulting in injury to the Prospect Mountain School District. I started this process to ensure my child had an opportunity to excel in a positive environment, and so far that has happened. My child has been afforded opportunities that would not have been possible at Pembroke Academy. The environment at Prospect Mountain High School has allowed my child to feel safe and socially accepted. And my child's academic success has far exceeded prior years while enrolled in SAU 53. I also believe that common sense would prevail and a school board would support the best interests of a student while being financially responsible. The reversal of the manifest educational hardship by a school board that has no elected members from my community and the shirking of financial obligations by my school board have me concerned that SAU 53 believes their area agreement places them above the law. Clear and direct guidance regarding open enrollment is needed from the New Hampshire Board of Education for school districts obligated by an area agreement. I am asking the state board to disagree with Attorney Foley's recommendation and make a decision regarding open enrollment involving school districts engaged in an area agreement. Despite current RSAs regarding manifest educational hardships, SAU 53 purposely took actions resulting in injuries to another school district. And based on its recent actions, I'm concerned SAU 53 will continue to ignore the final order for the Pittsfield School Board case and any resulting decisions from the Supreme Court regarding open enrollment. If you have specific questions, Superintendent Broderick is here today. And again, I would like to thank the board for your time and consideration. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions?
I'm sorry, I heard, did you say you made a request for open enrollment originally with the superintendent and that was rejected?
Yes, and
And why was that? Why was it rejected?
because I believe because the Epsom School Board had not accepted RSA 194D.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right.
Okay, my name is Barbara Lohman. I'm a partner at Soul Leslie Kidder, and I'm representing the Epsom School District in this matter, asking you to accept the recommendation of the hearing officer. As you know, which is basically to put this case on hold until the Supreme Court issues a decision in the Pittsfield School District case. The issue in the Pittsfield School District case is whether or not the district in which the child resides must have adopted the open enrollment statute before it is obligated to pay tuition to a different school district under the open enrollment statute, in this case, Prospect Mountain. The issues that the parent has raised regarding the area agreement, regarding the manifest educational hardship, all that other stuff, none of that can be decided until the Supreme Court issues its decision in the Pittsfield case. If the Supreme Court concludes that the Pittsfield School District is not obligated to pay open enrollment tuition, that rule will be binding on everybody, including the Epsom School District and the parents. If the Supreme Court decides the case differently, then as far as the Supreme Court is concerned, the student is allowed to go to Prospect Mountain. Epsom School District will have to pay the tuition, except that Epsom School District has an area agreement with the Pembroke School District, which requires Epsom to send all of its students to Pembroke Academy. That's an issue that'll have to be sorted out at a later date between those two school districts. The Pembroke School District is not a party to this agreement. I don't represent Pembroke. Or I'm sorry, a party to this case. I don't represent Pembroke. I'm only representing Epsom in this matter. But there's no point in holding a hearing at this point on the issue of whether the open enrollment statute compels Epsom to pay for this student to attend Prospect Mountain until we know what the Supreme Court is going to decide in the Pittsfield case. I don't know what the Supreme Court schedule will be for deciding the case. I can tell you that Epsom's brief is due later this month. The parents' brief is due by the end of April. I think we can hope that there will be a decision before the beginning of the next school year. Let me also point out that the Prospect Mountain superintendent testified in the Pittsfield case, both in front of the hearing officer and before this board, that the students who were enrolled under the open enrollment statute, which would include the student from Epsom, would be allowed to remain at Prospect Mountain until they graduated, whether or not the towns where they live pay tuition. He's backed off from that somewhat after the Supreme Court raised an issue of standing, in which it said it didn't see how the parents had standing in Pittsfield since the children would be allowed to remain at Prospect Mountain, whether the tuition is paid or not. So we now have a letter from Prospect Mountain saying, well, he still wants the sending towns or the sending districts to pay the tuition. But there's no indication that this cannot wait until the Supreme Court decides the Pittsfield case. There's no indication that these kids are about to be kicked out of Prospect Mountain. And I don't think it's unreasonably optimistic to hope that the Supreme Court will make a decision before the beginning of the next school year. So I think if you look at Attorney Foley's recommendation, he basically found that this whole matter should wait until the Supreme Court decides the Pittsfield case. It seems like a waste of time and effort for all concerned. You can't just decide today under your rules. When I say you can't decide under your rules, you have the option of remanding the case to the hearing officer if you don't agree with his recommendation that the case be put on hold. That simply means the parties have to go through what will probably turn out to be a rather pointless hearing, because the question is, what is the Supreme Court going to order? And so for those reasons, we think that the state board should accept the hearing officer's recommendation, wait for the Supreme Court's ruling, and at that time, a decision can be issued.
Any questions?
Just one question. You made a comment that the area grants require all students attend that receiving district. And it's not germane to this, but I have to question, I believe there's provisions in the statutes that allow superintendents to send students to a different school, or even in a particular case, a commissioner. How does that work out in relation to area agreements having to send all students? Is there certain exceptions to that?
That's a good question. The area plan requires Epsom to send all of its students. The area statute says that the two school boards can agree that the student will attend school elsewhere because of a manifest educational hardship. All of that predates the change in the school assignment statute that expressly empowers superintendents to place a student outside of the district or in a different school based on the best interest of the student standard. That came in after the area agreement and after the language in the statute requiring the approval of both school boards. But in this case, the superintendent has not assigned the student to attend a different school. And the superintendent's decision to deny a request to reassign a student under the best interest of the child standard is not appealable. Instead, the parent basically has to apply to the school board on the basis of manifest educational hardship.
So to distill it down, your position, your opinion would be that a superintendent or the commissioner, based on the current area agreement, could not have a student go to another school district.
I'm sorry, didn't mean to cut you off. When a manifest educational hardship request is denied, the parent has the right to appeal to the state board. And the state board has the right and clearly the authority to reverse the manifest educational hardship decision and place the student. But it seems to me the placement options are the superintendent can place under the best interest of the child standard. The board, the two boards, if it's an area plan, can do it under the manifest educational hardship statute. Or the state board, by reversing the local board, can do that.
Yeah, the Pittsfield case?
I look at things pretty matter of factly.
Yep.
And, you know, having read through this, you know, the other night, I pulled up the statute that was referenced. And although, you know, it's not, the sentiment I'm getting is it's because it's going to the Supreme Court, it's not complete, the statute. But when I look at this as to what I have to decide upon, 194 D5 funding, one indicates there shall be no tuition charge for any pupil attending open enrollment school located in that pupil's resident district. For any open enrollment school authorized by the school district, pupil's resident district shall pay to the sub-school amount equal to or not less than 80%. So it's very prescriptive. It doesn't say anything about the local school district having an open enrollment. And I thought that was, I recall when this came out, I thought the intent was to provide families the opportunity to look at other school districts and districts that may have a low enrollment. And my understanding is Prospect Mountain, having been involved in the construction project back when it was constructed, had a very low enrollment. There were actually empty classrooms. So I don't know if that's the case today, but by fact.
That's in alignment with what we decided 8 months ago, 9 months ago now, like
So I'm new to the board, so I don't.
Yeah, no, but like, no, I'm saying like, I'm in agreement, right? I voted that way there, that like, we're being asked by the hearing officer, by the district right now to wait, because that case got to the Supreme Court to hear on this before we address needs of this family, which I feel like we have a family in front of us. I don't feel like we're holding have to wait to go to the courts before we help do what we think is right for this family.
And I think board members have acknowledged that I am student focused.
Oh, yeah.
And not.
Well, we have statutes to follow and rules to follow,
Yeah.
and so if you follow our statutes and our rule and how we dealt with this same issue in the Pittsfield case, if we were to follow the precedent, the rule that we established in the Pittsfield case, the outcome there apply to this case, it's pretty cut and dried. I don't know that we need to wait. That decision stands. It's on appeal to the Supreme Court. Maybe the Supreme Court will see differently than we did. But in the meantime, that decision stands. And so I don't know why we would necessarily hold all of these cases out, waiting for the Supreme Court to act. I mean, we don't know how long that be.
Happy to make a motion. I move that we do not approve the hearing officer's report and do not approve the stay. And
So
pursuant to.
I would be
Ken's
reject the hearing
Reject.
officer's recommendation.
recommendation.
Yeah.
do not approve the stay.
Okay, let me,
And first, the rules cited so eloquently by member Gary. All the rules.
so just to be clear, your motion is, accept the hearing officer's report, reject the hearing officer's recommendation. That we stay this decision. And find that,
Open enrollment. School permits.
can you phrase that, is, how do you phrase it? That it's not in the proposed order.
Yeah.
Well, that's where, I did research and I didn't know where.
Yeah. And you want, I'll get it. Yeah.
And if the Supreme Court overrules, then
If there's no rules, I mean, that's, it can make those.
stick to the precedents.
And that you would
We have our rules, they have theirs.
find that the Epsom district is responsible for payment of tuition pursuant to RSA 194-D5.
That's the way to put it.
Thank you, sir.
That's the funding statute, Barbara, is what I was quoting. I think that's what they're after here.
That is the statute that I read, 194D5.
Yeah, just go ahead, wait, yeah.
My question is, we're entitled to a hearing with the hearing officer unless the case is placed on hold. And you're deciding the case today without giving us the hearing before the hearing officer?
So I believe that the hearing officer had the hearing, did
I mean,
not.
it seems to me, he did not hold a hearing. His recommendation was that we wait and not hold the hearing until the Supreme Court issues a decision.
Got it, yeah, I appreciate that clarification.
So if you're gonna reject that, it seems to me the
Can we
case
order the
goes back to the
hearing? Yeah, we can order the hearing.
Back to the hearing
hearing.
officer.
Decided on the merits today, I don't
Yeah,
think.
yeah, we haven't done any of the fact finding,
Okay.
so.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's.
Yeah, fair enough,
Thank you.
that's good, yeah.
Barbara.
Yeah, so, all right, that's fair.
Excuse me.
Yes,
I believe we did have a hearing with the hearing officer on December 18th.
you did have a hearing.
Only at which the hearing, he has not held a hearing on the issue. What he said at the hearing, that's in his decision, is that the case should be placed on hold until the Supreme Court makes a decision.
So that hearing in December, what she's saying is was not a finding of facts relative to your case. And so it will go through a fact finding hearing and then it would come before this board. So Barbara wants a chance to make her arguments in front of the hearing officer about
Yes.
why she thinks that this should be the outcome.
So we're man back.
So, I mean, there was some finding of
Remain
fact in
back
there,
to
but it was just stopped at the point of.
Yeah.
The bringing up of.
Is it in, but it's not enough finding of fact to be able to.
We
Yeah.
could say it's not robust enough.
Yeah.
Let me just scroll through.
So accept the hearing officer's report and
Hold
reject.
on one second.
We're gonna-
Let's just
we're gonna-
make sure I-
brings up a good point. We just want to make sure we get this right.
Legal analysis is all around the appeal.
Yeah.
It doesn't have legal analysis around the RSA, it's about their appeal.
But does he have enough facts to make for you all? to put that?
Yeah, I mean,
Hold on, let me just scroll through it.
So he does actually say that the legal issue he's ruling on, Barbara, is whether a sending school district must formally adopt or agree to the requirements of an open enrollment statute pursuant to RSA 194D before it is required to pay tuition. So that was what he was hearing, right? That's what he's ruling on. Now,
That's the issue in the case, but we haven't actually had the hearing on that issue. Because he concluded that the case should be remanded until the Supreme Court issues a decision.
there's what are the legal precedents when the recommendation from the hearing officer. Is wait.
What was the purpose
Yeah,
of
so
the
I-
hearing?
That's what I'm trying to decide.
So it does not appear in the record that there was a full hearing on the facts.
I'm sorry,
It doesn't appear there was a full hearing on the facts of the
that's
case.
correct. That's correct.
They began the hearing, a pre-hearing scheduling order. And the hearing officer asked both parties if it would be okay to just stay the case,
Yeah, and I,
right? So we need to unfortunately send it back to the hearing officer for the full fact findings. Which.
So the purpose.
Accept the direct the recommendation, send it back to the hearing officer for a full hearing.
Second.
Guess have a minute before you.
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, so, since there's discussion after the motion, second,
Sure, yeah, go ahead.
to me, there's enough finding of fact in like 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, that's what I'm
and
saying.
4, like, someone's going to an open enrollment school,
Yeah.
like, one,
Yeah, I'm trying to
district
understand how
didn't-
that.
like, what else is gonna change in that?
Like, there are a number of facts that are included in the record. Are you seeing that?
But it does appear that the hearing officer did not have a full hearing. Is that your, like, so what? It's a little hard to go through his.
What was the purpose of the hearing to begin with?
That's the salient question, right? And I'm just
What,
going
what,
through the
I'm
record real quick.
understanding
for
what
you
the
to see it.
antecedent
Yeah.
was, what brought this about? So I'm assuming someone requested a hearing.
I would ask the parents, you had the hearing with the hearing officer, or was it just the pre-hearing?
So I asked for clarification at one point in time, and the answer I received was that it was the hearing. The day of December 18th, we started the meeting off, and I asked the question right off the bat, if this was another preliminary hearing or if this was a hearing. And because we'd already had at least one other preliminary hearing, if not two.
And so at that hearing, what happened?
And Attorney Foley stated that this was the hearing.
Okay.
And I stuttered for a second because I was like, I wasn't aware this was gonna be the actual hearing, but we moved forward as it was.
I might just wait, hold this until this. Yeah, or unless you go, well, but just let me,
if I could just respond.
please go ahead, Barbara.
He did not reach the merits of the case. We did have 1 or 2 pre-hearings.
Yeah.
This was the hearing date. We had discussed at the pre-hearing what we're gonna do about this because of this Pittsfield case pending with the Supreme Court. On the date of the hearing, he did not listen to any evidence to speak of because the hearing revolved around the question of whether it would make sense just to put the case on hold until the Supreme Court issued the decision, which we still believe is the sensible resolution here, but.
And that hearing date was what date? You said December 18th?
I believe it was December 18th.
That's what the record shows.
Wow, yeah,
December
in
18th.
December. Yeah, so, I mean, even when a hearing officer holds a hearing, you know, on the merits, he still can, and if he recommends that the resolution wait until a court decision is made, if he doesn't reach the merits, then one side has not gotten its fair hearing.
Right.
And that was his recommendation, is that you wait. I realize it looks like you're gonna maybe reject that recommendation, but if you do, we are entitled to a hearing.
Yep.
And so it seems to me you remand the case to the hearing officer, and we have a hearing on the merits as to whether or not, you know, what the facts are in the case.
Well, so I appreciate that, Barbara. I'm looking at the docket. If you look at the docket, December 18th is not even listed on the docket. It has administrative docket ends on 11/19. And then picks up on 2/13 as if there was no hearing. That's a little confusing, yeah. Which suggests to me that it would probably be a good idea to send it back for a full hearing.
Or at least check with council before we do
Right,
that.
yeah, I gotta do that. So I am going to hold for a second. Did anybody come to speak on any of the public hearings, educator credentialing fees or licensure renewal filing fees? Nobody? Okay. I'm gonna close those public hearings, so we're out of those. We'll take a moment to think about this, make sure we want to make sure we get it all nice and correct. And then, yeah,
Okay. We're doing the phone a friend approach.
We're just gonna take this into reflection for a few minutes. And make sure.
We can just switch over to the next case and move forward.
You guys hold if it's all right, just to make sure we get the proper. All right. Procedure here, you know what we actually really need to.
Withdraw the motion.
Yeah, I think let's do that. And let's do.
I withdraw my motions.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? I don't know, we need to do that.
No.
All right. So we're just gonna put you guys on hold for a few minutes until we can legally
Come back.
dot the i's. Clearer than what we have here. That's sure.
I'm sorry, what?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We've got another hearing. But we're gonna take a few minutes break before we get to the next hearing, all right? So, just gonna take a little break.
Give me lunch.
Yeah, I think lunch might be good.
Lunch is available.
Sounds good.
All right. So I'm gonna gavel us back in. I would like to, before we think on this. We really should revote on the peer search, just because we took it off the table, let's just do that and have it. All tidy after the fact.
All right. So I remove my original motion.
Just revote.
We just redo the vote.
Yeah, just
We
redo
don't
the
need to
vote.
take anything off.
So do I need to read the motion or we just?
Yeah, just read the motion again.
This is for
we
Kearsarge,
accept-
Peer
correct?
search.
We accept the hearing officer's report, reject the recommendation and find for district placement manifest educational hardship for both children.
Second. Okay.
Aye.
Now. For Epsom. I think we do have some clarity on what the hearing was and everything, so I think the proper motion would be, if we, disagree with the hearing officer's recommendation, to reject the hearing officer's recommendation and remand it back for a full hearing. So if anybody would like to make that.
Second.
Oh, yeah, so accept the hearing officer's report, reject the recommendation, remand it, remand the issue back for a full hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. So it's now back to the hearing officer for the full hearing, so we'll probably see you again.
Thank you very much.
Okay, for Rochester. Nobody's here from Lebanon, right? We don't have a parent.
Yeah, they notified us neither party was going to
Not
provide.
here from Lebanon, but we do have folks here from Rochester, correct? So we're gonna do that one since folks are here.
Thank you for hearing us next. We do appreciate it.
No problem.
So what's happening with the Lebanon hearing?
You're gonna have it, but no parties came, so we can do that. Oh, here. All right, so you are from the school district?
Yep, my name is Katie Cox Pelletier. I'm an attorney with Upton and Hatfield, and I represent the Rochester School District. And this is the interim superintendent, Allison Bryant.
So the parent is not coming, the father's not coming?
Correct.
Without the parent here to request going in a non-public? A little tricky. I feel like this one probably should be a non-public.
And that you have to be careful not to disclose any.
Yeah, exactly. So, so I still think we could do a vote to hold this in non-public or like for 1A3C to.
So 185.
How do I not memorize that?
185, 326.
No, 183, no, 183.
183.
It's on the agenda.
It's
Oh my God.
under hearings.
135. 23C, right?
91A.
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 RSA 91A.
193, that's the manifestation.
That's what, yeah, sorry, I'm like, living in that one.
91A 32C. All right.
So moved.
Second, Bill, all in favor?
Aye.
Actually,
By roll call, we got a
roll
roll
call,
call.
roll call.
Yes.
Aye.
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 Okay.
Just give us a moment to switch over
All
to
right, so
technology.
everybody who's not
Gabrielle.
here for Rochester, we've got to keep you out.
Just.
All in favor? All right. Okay, now we have Lebanon, which no one is here for. Right?
No, no one's here for, and they advised us they would not be here.
I'm gonna go get the rest of my salad.
Okay.
Okay, your meals, your lunch is here too, sorry.
All right, I gotta open this up. Okay.
There's an aggressive amount of hearings to have on one agenda.
It is, but that's just.
That's why you guys started early.
Yeah, so, again, no parties are here. But do we want to have a discussion in non-public about this, just in the sensitivity of the student? Can we let Ann come back?
Listen to preview. I think it makes sense. We can talk more openly.
Yeah.
Do you want to go to the other items before we go back into non?
Sure. That's a
Yeah,
good
that might
idea.
be,
Oh.
hey, I'm on this.
No, you're having a better day than me.
And I can hear you out there, Angela.
Good.
Talking about you.
Is Tim Carney around?
I'm gonna do the Learn Everywhere program.
Okay, so maybe we just do that. Okay. We thought we'd go back into non-public at 11.
Yeah, not a problem. So this is the Upreach Therapeutic Equestrian Center. I actually got to visit them just recently. It's an excellent program. They basically, it's in, you know, the credit that they're getting is an elective credit.
Yeah.
But quite frankly, there's a lot of science and English language arts that they embed in it. When I was there, we played, the kids were there as well, but there was a game that was played with like a literacy game of, you know, you got part of a word and then you had to like lead this horse around and find the other words that matched it and line your horse up and stuff like that. So they have done quite a good job. Is somebody joining this?
Is it Kayla? Is that who's?
No. the answer-
Where is this located?
They're in Goffstown, just outside of Manchester. You know, and then a lot of the work that they're doing is with some of our special education students dealing with anxiety, depression, stuff like that. And they get around horses and who's not gonna be happy hanging around animals and.
Especially horses.
Yeah, and then as well, the kids have the opportunity to take care of the horses, right? Like, so they're working within the stalls, they're brushing the horses off, they are feeding the horses, they're raking, you know, the ring area. Which is actually, this is way more information than you want, but their arena, so it's an indoor arena. I'm not a horse guy, so I don't know this, but they make the arena out of, they get old shag carpets. Remember those things we tried to get rid of? Well, it turns out they never die and you basically shred them up and that becomes the matting for the floor. And apparently it's very good for horses, you know, kind of soft and doesn't create lumps and it's good for the horse feet or something like that. They also are, you know, harnessing the horses up to carts to be able to pull carts, and stuff like that. This is only a renewal, so they've been around for some time. They haven't had any, you know, difficulties or complaints or anything like that. It's just a program they're running for kids and it seems to be going well, so.
The list of,
We have a,
accomplishments that they have to, the tasks they have to be able
To get done.
accomplish.
Yeah.
Like, is really long and impressive. Like, this is not a easy elective. If you're gonna take this thing, we gotta.
I don't know what their head count was. I apologize.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it. I just, there's some people
have the
online
application.
and, but I can't tell who.
Like, so the other thing too is like, I know they have, I mean, they're in, it's your classic, like, this is not a build it and they found this is an existing program that's been serving kids in the outside of the Manchester community for a very long time. They bring kids out of the city to kind of experience animals and stuff like that. And so this is really a function of, for those who it makes sense, they're able to be awarded credit.
wow,
Yeah, I mean, in the list of competencies too, the soft skills, the hard skills, you know, one of the things they teach you is,
You've heard of horse thinking? I thought that was odd.
That's pretty fun. So you have to, yeah, it's a lot of discipline, it's a lot of following directions. Because all that stuff really matters when you're working with an animal at large. And if you can't do those sort of basic things, then that demonstrates to them that you can't take care of a horse, right? So that you have this sort of, you have to behave, you have to follow the rules. And if you come in sneakers, you know, like, it's all sorts of things that are really good for kids to learn as they're going through life.
It's not all about them.
Right, exactly. It's not.
preparation.
Respect. One of the things in here, I can't find the exact language, but it is basically said, one of the things you're supposed to learn is to respect the horse. Which I thought was great.
Well, you'll learn if you don't, so.
Yeah.
I will tell you though, they do have those mini horses that they start out with
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
So you don't get kicked by a big horse right away.
Yeah.
You don't respect the horse, I suppose.
Yeah, it looks like very small.
Well, I move that the State Board of Education approve the Upreach Therapeutic Equestrian Center Learn Everywhere renewal application.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, Julie back there, Julie.
She's back.
Hello again. We received the conditional approval response, let me rephrase that. The conditional approval response letter was accepted by OLS earlier, so the board can now adopt those rules if they so vote.
Went the wrong way.
I love that we all just got in the habit of everybody looking at Ann. Motion.
I thought that was her designated
Just
role,
saying.
to be the motion maker.
I speak the fastest.
You're the most prepared, I think is what it is.
Come on, computer. All right, I motion to adopt ED 321 relative to school building aid.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Your school.
Thank you.
Gotta look to me.
So I don't have any, I kept the board composition charter schools on here, because but I don't have anything really to continue the discussion on unless staff wants to throw in anything. Because my next step, I think, is to take what we've discussed about the things we want and sort of come up with draft language for a rule. So that sound good, everybody? All right. So I'll pull the notes from last month and reach out to staff and say, can you just massage this into something that looks like a rule that we can start talking about? Let's do meeting minutes. I actually. Do I get to go? Yes, but I want to get this.
Oh, okay. You skipped me on the
I know.
agenda.
I'll come back. I was skipping lots of things.
Okay.
Remove the
Not
nine
that
from the
much, but,
table.
you know.
But I don't want to remove them from the table because I read them and they still don't get to the heart. It seems very random.
That's funny. I actually had Laura review it just to make sure they were accurate and she tweaked it and that's what, and so.
So there was nothing in the minutes talking about the EDI.
It was initially in the first draft, but not in
It just was like a little,
little
so it's
blurb.
redraft, it's not even in there. And that was a massive part of the discussion, so.
So we can
I
leave it
think
tabled.
I think we should leave it tabled and have a third crack at it.
Okay.
It was kind of a big discussion. I understand how things get missed, but I feel like that's an important thing to just have in.
Okay.
For the February minutes, did anybody have any issues with those? All right, we want to vote on those?
I move to approve the meeting minutes of February 20th, 2025.
Right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Commissioner.
Okay, now I get to go, thank you.
You're up.
So we are going to have a day of AI on March 18th, so next week at NHTI for the schools. So there's an organization out of MIT, I might have shared this with you, called Day of AI. It's out of the Innovation Lab down at MIT. I've been to several of their presentations, but it's really like AI for educators is the way that I would describe it. And it kind of, it's not going to be and it's really for education leaders to help them understand the technology in a way that they can be effective leaders in an organization that is going to have more and more introduction of AI into that stream. And so I'm excited about that. We opened it up, we only had, we basically had like 150 slots and they're all gone. They just went like that. You know, and we limited schools in terms of the number of slots that they could take. So it wasn't like one school sent 50 people or something like that. And so just really broad and good interest, I think, in that topic, which is, I think, important. Continuing on the AI theme, as you all know, we did our contract with Conmigo. It's been quite popular with many of the districts have signed up and they're using it and it's been deployed. We've had done trainings around the state. We had a training here a couple weeks ago. Got a bunch of folks to come in and do that training. Conmigo had, and I don't know if you remember this, but I used some of my COVID cash and we bought that 1-year license for everybody. Con has come back and said that they are going to give everybody who has signed up gets a whole nother year on the license for free. So that was a good, ask that of them and that they are stepping up and actually doing that. And so I'm pretty excited about that they're willing to do that.
One quick.
Yeah.
For the AI program, can I come and observe?
I'm gonna have to check. I don't know. You may have to bring your own lunch because we're very limited in terms of what we could do. So we'll see, let me see what we can do because we literally are having to turn people away. So I'll get back to you on that. I would have invited you all, but basically all the seats got taken up like right away. Yeah. No, you would enjoy it. I mean, I think it's good. Maybe you'll know some of the folks from the innovation labs as well. So, the next thing that I wanted to talk to you about is, so obviously we're in the middle of the budget process with the state legislature, as well as the legislative season. Budget wise, we did our presentation on Monday. It went well. I don't think there's going to be tons of questions. We have a pretty clean budget. We know what we, at least relative to the agency. Again, much of our money is just pass through money. Somebody gives it to me and I give it to somebody else. So I don't expect it to be super disruptive. I know there's a lot of conversation around the state about how, like people are very concerned about revenues and stuff like that. I'm less pessimistic maybe than some others are on that. And I know from an agency standpoint, I feel comfortable that we're going to be able to get adequate resources to be able to meet our mission. And I guess this is a little bit, so my approach when asked about areas that they can reduce the budget, I like to tell people we already run what I refer to as a lean shop. And so it's really, I just offer programs like, okay, well, I can reduce my budget, but we won't do that or that or that. And then everybody has to decide if they don't want to do those things or not. And an example of kind of this leanness is, so there's a state hiring waiver in place right now. So we're not allowed to hire anybody unless we get approval from the governor's office. And we have two positions that we have more than that, but these are two that you all I know have had some exposure to and will appreciate. So for example, Tim took another job over in building aid. And so he's working because Amy took a job over at DES. So then Tim took that job. So we were seeking and then as well, Brian, our EFA administrator, he took a job over at DES as well. Truthfully concerned about what, in the fall, he was concerned there was some uncertainty about the future of the EFA program, depending on what happened in the election. And so he's like, I'm gonna have a job. So he's like, I got a job. And so he took another job. But these are two programs that, there's only one person, right? And so we applied for waivers and some of the questions I got back from some of the staff people who were evaluating it were like, well, can't the other people in that bureau do it? I'm like, no, it was a bureau of one. Like Tim was, like a one-armed paper hanger over there, right? And he's managing programs between our non-public schools, our home education, students. There's like 24,000 students. And you got one guy who's administrating it. So in the meantime, it's like Caitlin and I are the ones who are in charge of these programs.
Can you lure him back?
Can we lure? Oh, Tim's still here.
Oh.
He's just doing the buildings for us now. So, also an important program as well. So, but just to kind of give you a flavor from a budgeting standpoint, we also have some important legislative initiatives that are in there that are being worked on. Some stuff around open enrollment schools, just clarifying, exactly how this is supposed to work. So Barbara doesn't have to come and see us. There's some stuff relative to educator credentialing, in particular around part-time educators and trying to create even a further flexible environment for our educators. It was interesting. We got support from the Manchester Assistant Superintendent on that particular bill because Manchester is struggling. They do a lot of, work with the Manchester Community College. And so the professors at Manchester Community College are teaching kids and the kids are getting college credits. But because those college professors don't meet the K-12 certification requirements, they can't get the credits. And so you're like, what? You can take a college class, but we can't give you high school credit for that. So, a little bit odd. But so there's that, relative to investigations, there's the ability or the authority to have subpoena power. And it's not like this carte blanche subpoena power, basically like Diana or the agency would have to go before a hearing officer and say, here's why I need subpoena power. Generally it would be the NEA or the AFT would argue why they don't think we should get that information and we shouldn't have subpoena power. The hearing officer would rule. And if they say, yeah, we think you got a good basis for going to get the subpoena, then they would be able to do that. And because there are sometimes we have these investigations and we need information and, schools are just like, nah, not interested, right? And so they'll just have like a sealed agreement that I can't touch. So there's that. There's other legislative initiatives going on. But some good stuff over there. The next thing that I will focus on is really around, there's many issues coming out of the federal, about the Trump administration, specifically around, like you probably heard this week that they had a substantive reduction in the headcount at the U.S. Department of Education. The position of the agency, or at least the position of the commissioner, is that it's going to be an okay thing. It's going to be good for us. What we anticipate happening is that grant funds that are going to continue will be block granted to the state, and that we will then be responsible for distributing funds to our LEAs as opposed to having multiple layers of administration, both, you know, the federal level administration, our level administration, and then we're delegating it down to the LEAs. And the really positive thing, and it's actually going to be quite easy to implement this, because in state, like as I've encouraged the legislature not to have a food fight over this money, because I have all the tools in my toolbox today to distribute these funds. Like if you give me Title I as a program that's designed around giving money to poverty districts, I have my fiscal disparity aid formula, right? So Caitlin's just going to put a few more zeros on that number and allocate those funds out. I get IDEA funding right now. You know, I do differentiated aid for, you know, special education students. And so on a proration basis, I could just use that same prorated basis, bump it up against the federal pass-through grant and distribute that. If I have my English as a second language, I got, you know, which is the Title III stuff. I have that same formula. I provide differentiated aid for English learners. And so we have, like, I have yet to come across a federal funding stream that we have that I don't already have in the state of New Hampshire, a mechanism that has gone through a legislative process and is approved and accepted and everybody likes it, that I can use to continue to pass funds through to our district. So I don't think that will be that big of a deal. It's interesting. I did you know, a press inquiry about it yesterday. It turned out to be a very short you know, interview, because I said, I don't think we're gonna have any problems. It's gonna be really good. And they're like, we're gonna go find somebody whose hair's on fire and we'll talk to them. And I offered, I said, if somebody's hair's on fire, tell them to call me. I'll tell them how to do this, because every other state's gonna have the same infrastructure in place. It's not like SEAs, like state education agencies, are in the business of passing through funds, whether it's state funds or federal funds. Like that is something that that we've got, and we know how to do that. As well, out of the Trump administration, there's been a lot of different guidance about different issues, you know, DEI, Title IX, gender, women in sports, stuff like that. We have, I don't know if any of you have been on it, but we have a separate website that we set up at the department. We set up a couple weeks ago, and, you know, a lot of this stuff was churning out. You know, both cataloging all of the stuff that was coming out, because it was coming out fast and furious and we didn't want anybody to miss it. And then where appropriate or where complete, because most of this, you know, we're issuing technical advisories about how to do something with that. We have more technical advisories in the queue, but we're working with the Attorney General's office to make sure that we get good guidance out to the schools where we can. While I know for
Good question.
you know, some individuals it's difficult, we don't really see these as being that difficult at this point.
Are you going to miss any kind of support that you currently get from Department of Education, federal, other than the funding part of, you know, any kind of guidance and whatever else that you know, testing or whatever?
Generally, the guidance that we seek with regard to from the US Ed, our partners at US Ed, are complying with their regulatory schema for using the money that they've given us. And so the assumption is that these block grants are going to have a more simplistic regulatory schema, and therefore compliance with it should be much simpler for us as well. But otherwise, we're not going to the US Ed and saying like, hey, we have this gnarly state problem. Can you help us out with it? The advice that we generally seek from the feds is how to comply with their regulatory schema. And so the more that the footprint of their regulatory schema is diminished, the less need to seek advice and support would be. Again, we don't really know how these block grants may or may not work, or even if they will work, right? They haven't told us how they're going to do it. This is just kind of the assumption that we're operating under. And in theory, you have the opportunity to, I don't know what the Trump administration is going to do, but you know, there was a fairly substantive and costly administrative layer at the federal level that was, as he frees up those funds, I don't know if he's just going to put them back to the taxpayers or if he's going to help pass those through as well. We don't know the answer to that. And then the last thing that I want to flag for you is, you know, put this as a date. So we're going to have some interesting, you know, we have the superintendent's conference every year, and then we have the principals conference every year in late June. Has anybody ever been to those? Have you guys been to those? Okay, so this happens every year. And we just have, I'm excited. We have a couple of speakers that we've invited, because generally the department, it's not our event, it's the superintendent's event. and it's the principal's event, but they always give us some speaker slots to be able to bring guests, and I generally bring a guest speaker in. But we're going to be, and what made me think about this is I heard you having a conversation with somebody, so talking about, you know, lighting in the schools, the effect of these, you know, flickering, you know, LEDs, and what the effect is on the kids, the, you know, the energy efficient windows that are blocking full spectrum light, and what the effect of that is biologically on the kids. The flicker I already mentioned, but in particular, the flicker relative to some of my kids with autism and stuff like that. The issues around circadian health and how we basically need to get these kids in some rhythms. And so as we worry about the, you know, the increasing dysregulation of children in the school system, are there some relatively simple, you know, in building and maybe out of building, like get the kids outside every once in a while, right? You know, things that could happen to help these kids be more regulated, be more conscious, be more able to engage in the instruction that we're actually providing to them, rather than kind of putting them into a bit of a toxic lighting type of a soup, you know, dysregulated from, you know, their natural rhythms as an individual human, and wondering like, gee, why are they so hard to control, you know? So, and so I'm excited about that. So there's both a woman who is a PhD from Princeton and UPenn doing like she does a lot of microbiome types of stuff or digestive kinds of stuff like that, but a lot of the circadian stuff. And then a representative from a company, you know, that has some kind of flicker-free types of technologies, you know, not the backlit type of screen technology that they're working on as well. And more than anything else, it's really just the opportunity to introduce educators to the concepts, so that as this is an evolving kind of conversation, because I think it is getting much more attention as the, you know, time goes on. I want to introduce them to it in a fairly soft way, not too soft, I'll nudge them a little bit, but in a fairly soft way, so that they can feel like they're somewhat, a little bit like AI, like they're knowledgeable about this. And when these topics come up, they're not foreign to them, so.
And then we can follow the time.
Work on that, yes, exactly.
It's not good.
Well, it was interesting, I was in Keene 2 days ago, I don't think it was 2 days ago, was I at Keene 2 days ago?
Yes.
Yeah, 2 days ago. We had a CTE meeting there, and
3 days.
3 days ago, okay, it just flies. But, you know, so an advocate, and many of the superintendents know this, of, you know, later starts, because as I like to say it, like, anybody who's ever been around children knows that the littles wake up at the crack of dawn, and the high school kids you got to drag out of bed. So what do we do for school is we make the high school kids that you got to drag out of bed start at 7 or 7:15, and the littles don't start till 9. And you're like, well, who invented that system, right? And we all know that it was invented because of sports, right? Because, oh, how are we going to practice? But Rob Millay, the superintendent in Keene, he actually has gotten to an 8:30 start for his high school kids, which I'm proud of. So I'll just mention that. Yes. Yeah. And that's all I got.
It's all primarily because of the availability of buses, isn't it? So same kid bus has to go pick up the small kids and the big kids, so you can't.
You know, it sounds like an adult problem from a logistics, like, can't you just like reverse that? Yeah.
So the other thing I think about as part of the whole block grant piece is
Yeah.
that obviously there's certain legislative requirements that we at SEA have to report out to, I'm sure, our local legislature. Likewise, doesn't USAID have to report out something to Congress on certain things? And I guess the only thing I think of, yes, hopefully it is simpler, but just there may be some administrative cost. I don't know if we'd be absorbing some kind of administrative cost to report out, say, to Congress, if anything at all, but.
It would
Just
really
something to be
depend on what it
mindful
is
of.
they're seeking relative to those funds.
Yeah, there's always that oversight piece that.
Yeah, so I mean, if they give us a block grant, it wouldn't really be considered a block grant if they loaded up with a whole bunch
Right.
of nonsense. I mean, that's what I'm doing today,
Yes.
right? And so the protection that we have is they can't load it up with too much stuff, because then they have a responsibility to monitor that.
Yep.
And then they'd have to hire all those people back. you
Right.
know? So I'm assuming that given the actions that have been taken so far, that their regulatory footprint is going to get less, not more. And from a state's perspective, we're already geared to handle their regulatory footprint. So, you know, we've got a full title office upstairs, you know, managing our compliance with regard to all those funds. And it's not, and we have to seek guidance, as I point out, like, 'cause sometimes you read these rules and you're like, they conflict with one another. They don't even make sense. So, yeah.
One thing I'd like to announce, MIT has this program called Science and Engineering Program for Teachers. It's a week-long boot camp for STEM teachers from all over the world.
Great.
So MIT Club of New Hampshire, we put out a thing saying, okay, we pick one teacher from New Hampshire and sponsor. It's about $2,300. So we'll sponsor, and we had pretty good signups. So we took the top 3, but we could only fund 1. Okay, because MIT Club of New Hampshire only had so much money. But we sent all 3 to MIT saying, we love these candidates, but we are only going to fund 1. If they find funding, can you take the other 2? And they came back and said they'll take the other 2.
Awesome.
Okay, so there are 3 of them, but I don't know how, if others are finding their own funding. But this is Sarah Campbell from Merrimack. Dr. Campbell is from Merrimack High School.
Yeah.
So she's the one we selected for.
And if you have programs like that, if you can provide those to us, we can push them out statewide.
That's how we sent it through the.
Did we send it through the Friday Forum?
newsletter.
Okay,
Kim
got it.
pushed it out, and
Okay,
that's how they applied.
great. That's exciting.
That's very cool. All right, well, thank you. So we need to go back to Lebanon. And I would probably recommend.
A motion that we go into non-public
Second.
under 93.
91A.
91A.
2-3.
No. 91A3.
91A.
We're gonna get that.
Sorry. I put it under hearings all the time, just so you have
I
it.
remember my credit card number. Okay.
Nobody knows.
My last 4.
I used to know that.
Well, I keep on getting them
I'm getting.
conflicted, so I have to remember a new number and it's challenging.
All right, wait, we didn't
Yes,
do the
sorry.
roll call. Let's do the roll call. So you seconded, right?
Sure doesn't die.
And we're back.
Yeah, we never
motion to seal the minutes.
I'll second. There we go.
Okay.
All in favor?
Let's do roll call.
Aye.
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 Okay. All right, now, motion. to table.
I'll make a motion to table the Lebanon C.
Yeah, parent versus
Parent
Lebanon School
Lebanon.
Board.
Manifest education hardship hearing.
Second for Bill,
Okay.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
I think we're done.
Holy moly.
Wasn't that?
So we're right on time, 10 minutes. We got 10 minutes to.
10 minutes? Whoa. Till what?
Until the agenda says.
Our agenda says we're supposed to be done.
That arbitrary time we put
That's
on
how
there every month.
Yeah, great.
You're right, 2:30. Yeah. That's not bad for 4 hearings in a.
I know,
rally
that's
by
pretty
now.
good. Good.
All right.
What we do later.
I motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Let's give them mics a second.
Yeah, let me just give you a.
Yeah, you gotta come around for that. Come back for that adjournment motion.